Hey, there we are. There it is. There it is.
Oh, almost.
Hey, you got it in frame again. You're getting
I
pretty
did.
good at that.
Look at me go.
Look at you go.
I got it like one in a row.
I think this is number 2 now, actually.
Well, sort of. I was like,
we'll take it. Take the win.
Yeah,
Take
sure.
the win.
And a half.
Anyways, welcome everybody to this week's episode of The Blithe and the Blind. I am Joy.
I'm Julie. I'm the blind one.
And Julie is the blind one.
Yeah.
That about sums it up.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate you.
It's a good time to be here. Obviously, hey, thanks for all of our returning listeners. We're glad to see you back. Well, we don't see you necessarily. That'd be kind of creepy if we could see you while you're watching it.
Wouldn't bother me.
We see your view. Well, you're weird, so we see your views though. We appreciate those. Everybody who happens to stumble across our channel, we also appreciate seeing you guys come in. Hopefully, you like what you're seeing / hearing mostly.
Yeah, we average about like 12 viewers. It's really wild. I don't know where they come from. I mean, I know Grace is there. Ha! I did it first.
Shout out, Grace. You got shouted out by somebody that wasn't me. How does it feel?
Early on, by the way. If you're following, that is 11.
She was not playing the long con.
12 episodes and 12 episodes. So there you go.
She's really not playing the long con on that one. She said, "Get it out of the way at first."
Yeah, I'm like done. So I know our last episode was a short one, and I have not gotten any indication that was a bad thing or a good thing. So we'll see. We'll see what the jury holds on that one. This is also going to be a shorter episode, although we could talk much longer about this one.
As you all know.
Yeah. Well, but we were discussing about accessibility and touched upon that. We went boop, and now we're gonna boop it again. So
we're unpinning it and folding it out like one of those, like the map in the Goofy movie when it just kind of like explodes on him and he's trying to write stuff down.
Yeah, when people say we'll put in a pin in it for later and they never come back. Well, we're doing that. We're coming back to it.
However
we're unpinning.
We always come back to it.
Yeah, it's true. We do.
Also, quick upfront, my apologies if my energy is not matching previous videos. I'm having a rough health day personally. So just heads up for all you out there. If you're like, Joy seems tired, it's because Joy's tired.
Yeah.
But
we were gonna push it off, but we did not. So there, because we've got lots going on in the next little bit.
A story for another time.
Sure.
Today we want to talk about accessibility. It's part of the reason I honestly brought up my situation for the day, because accessibility looks different for different disabilities, and that sounds really dumb to say, but some people don't always get that. So like I said, I'm having a rough day myself in terms of some of my stuff that I struggle with, and something that really helped me today that just was, it's dumb, but the accessibility to get to a bathroom in a very quick period of time, or be able to like sit down and just be like, nope, we'll circle back around to it when I need it. Those seem like small and stupid things, and they are small and stupid things, but in some places, in some environments, that's just not even an option.
Right. I would say they're small, but they're not stupid or insignificant. Is having access to a restroom at the time you need it, and being able to sit and not have to have a lot of movement. If you can't do that, that's not stupid. That's a real life thing.
Right.
No different than if you had a broken leg or an arm.
Well, and that's the thing is, because like if I was feeling this way and I had to work today at my part-time job, sometimes it gets busy. There's not really a whole lot of space in the bathrooms there, and my job requires a lot of movement. So if I start feeling like this during a shift, it could really affect my work performance. So
and those around you.
Well, yeah, and my bosses are pretty cool. So if I tell them like, hey guys, I got a dip, then usually they're pretty good with like, hey, we're getting somebody in to get you out of there. But it does still kind of take that moment of like, I know that some people do the dance if they're waiting for a bathroom, but like some of us don't even have time to do the dance. before we got to drop our pants. So it's one of those, mark that line. It's one of those where it's, again, it sounds dumb, but like being able to have access to that in a controlled environment even is like a huge thing for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I have days like this, I don't like going out in public because I also don't really like public restrooms.
Well, a lot of us don't
No,
do that. Yeah,
they're kind
a
of
whole
icky
lot of us
sometimes.
don't. Yeah, yeah.
But
And
like,
I've learned where some of the nicer ones are.
exactly. And but my thing is with my needs, you know, if you have access to, like, if you need access to a bathroom, you don't, and I do mean you specifically, don't necessarily, like, it's not always like a, I need it right now, I need to go, you know? You
You
may be
mean
able
me
to,
specifically?
you specifically.
Oh, well, yeah, I do get that.
I mean, yeah, but it's not the same. Like, if I'm having a rough day with my disability, it tends to be more of like, with one of my disabilities at least, it's like, I gotta go, like, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, for yours, it's things like, you know, your cane, or, you know, having somebody like with whom you're familiar and comfortable helping find those locations with you, or for you, stuff like that. You know, I don't necessarily need somebody to be like, there's a transition there,
Mm-hmm.
don't trip, you know. And so, like, if I had somebody alongside me telling me, hey, there's a transition there, I'd be like, would you shut up, I see it, you know, like, that wouldn't help my stuff very much.
Right, right.
And that's kind of the big thing I feel like people don't always think about, because, you know, I know you hear this a lot, I'm sure you'll have something to say on it, but when people say, oh, well, it's up to ADA standards.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. Yeah, we work with compliance. We're up to compliance. Well, compliance is like minimum building codes. So, you know, minimum building codes are minimum for a reason, right? And all you have to do is go into an old building that was built up to the minimum building codes of its time to see how poor those building codes are.
Yeah.
Right. And what minimum looks like. Right. So yeah, we get that. I get that a lot. And accessibility out in public or in places, and I know we touched on this last time, but in places that are, it's supposed to have accessibility. So we live in a small town in Nowheresville, Indiana, right? And there's a brand new building. Literally, we watched it being built, and it's brand new, and it's got office. It's a shared space, so it's office and living and whatever.
Looks super nice.
Shops and living space, and it's been touted as this beautiful place, but it's not accessible. They have one building that has a ramp, and the ramp had to be redone twice
We
because
watched it get redone twice.
well, the first, like, you know, it's bad when the officials are out there with their measuring tape looking puzzled because
Somebody
they were like,
right. And when we
and had the tape, and it's just like it was too small, and the hill was like what we call the death ramp, right? So, like in Europe, they don't have ramps that are ADA because the A in ADA is America. Americans with Disabilities Act, right? So in any place that's not the United States, some have better rules and others don't. And some places are so old that death ramps, like the ramps were like that.
Yeah.
And this ramp was a little too on the incline was impossible.
It was not compliant with ADA. There's no way.
Yeah. So they had to tear it out and redo this brand new building. So it was kind of comical. And this big store that's been around for a long time, and there was a big hubbub about they had to move, and they moved into this new building. They have no ramp to get into their building. It's 8 stairs to get into the building.
Into
so
the
I'm
shop,
like, that's great. So now what? You know? But yeah, so for example, something that I know that's out there, and I don't know how many people know that's out there, but when you go to a movie, like we discussed, we went to the movie, and we were part of the Barbenheimer group, right? We did it probably backwards. We saw Oppenheimer first, and then saw Barbie movie. That awesome, it's just straight awesome, both of them. And when I go to a movie, I ask for auditory descriptor headphones, and it's a little box. It's really, it's tiny. It's probably no bigger than this. It's a
Right.
little transistor thing, and it links up to the in cinema transistor, and it will do the auditory description of the movie for me. They use the same one if you're hearing impaired, and it will help with hearing impairment. Or they have one that has closed captions on it that will show closed captions. But they're different machines. Anyway, so we go in and I ask for it in our little local movie theater. They're pretty good about it, and I've not had an issue up to this point. And Oppenheimer was great. The
So good. It was so
descriptions were beyond wonderful. Made me cry a couple times. It was just gorgeously descriptive. We go in for Barbie. We expect the same thing. It's the same theater. It's a different theater, but the same building, right? The same.
And it's not necessarily the same box, but it's the same program.
Yeah. So we go in and it will describe the movie, but it will not describe any of the trailers, any of the pre-show stuff. None of that gets described, just the movie. So you know when the movie started, because when it does it'll start describing the world is spinning or the globe is spinning and words are coming around and it says universal, I always hear the Minions. Da-da, da-da-da-da.
I can explain why.
Yeah. I always hear the Minions singing it. Anyway, so I couldn't hear it. I'm like, there's nothing. It's nothing. This one's dead. So my husband gets up and he goes and returns it, comes back with another one, and I try the other one. The second one was dead, and I'm like, it's just not going to work. And the Barbie movie, if you haven't seen it, it's very cinematic, right? It's yes, there's dialogue, but it's all about the visuals for Barbie, y'all. I mean, it's Barbie, right? And the visuals are freaking cool if you can see them.
And the other thing that, and it's when we were watching the movies, both of them, then one of them I was sitting next to you, one of them I was sitting next to a friend, and I remember I could hear some of the audio descriptor during Oppenheimer because, again, y'all, I'm sitting right next to the lady.
Yeah.
And also, if you don't know, Oppenheimer gets loud. So you need to be able to hear the audio descriptor. So you turn it up. But I could hear it sometimes, and I'm like, oh, good, it's working. But the reason that she points out it doesn't work on the trailer is because I don't know if it works or not until the movie starts.
Yeah.
So, okay, if it's not working, am I missing part of the movie? Or are we still in the trailers?
Right.
What's going on? Who's talking?
Yeah, and I can see some things, y'all.
Yes.
I can see some things, and the screen is large, but I can make out certain things. The Barbie movie is
you couldn't.
Not spoiler, but the Barbie movie is very pink.
Incredibly.
So to me, that's just to see a pink.
Which, and she's not, anybody out there, she's not criticizing it. That's Barbie.
No,
it's all pink. That's Barbie.
But for me, when you have pink on pink on pink on pink, it's a sea of pink, and I can't distinguish what is, the manly Barbie. What is it? What is
Mojo Dojo Casa House?
Right. Between Barbie Dream House, between the other Barbie's Dream House, between the car, between the boat, between it all meshed for me. So it turns into this really wild pink watercolory thing to look at. Which it was just such a different experience in the same building, right? Yeah. And when you go to discuss this with somebody, here's the takeaway for me. When I go to discuss this after the movie's over, because I'm not going to have other people who's paid to see this movie come in and out, in and out, in and out, and miss the movie. That's not fair to them. It's not fair to the people around me to have to describe the movie to me. Joyce had to do that before when we were on a ship and they did not have auditory descriptor available, like I was told they were supposed to. having said that, that's not what you go to see a movie for. That's not what you bring a friend for, to describe the movie. You want to both experience the movie and have a discussion about it, or snide comments, or pick on the person sitting next to you. Do you know what I mean? That's why you
Or
go.
all of the above.
Right. So we petty. So when you go out and you say, hey, this isn't working, and it wasn't working, and it's still not working, and all they can say is, well, I checked them last month, but I'm here now. And I told you when I was here at 10 o'clock in the morning that I was going to be here all day, and I was going to be in that other, like I said those words. I'm going to use it now, and then I'm going to be in the other theater for Barbie in like 3 hours.
Well,
and nobody checked it.
For the first one, though, I will say that there was, it was like, I think he was like the manager on shift at the time, but he, he gave you the audio descriptor thing, and then before the movie starts, maybe 5 minutes before the movie starts, he comes waltzing in, and he's like, I gave you the wrong one. Let me switch it for you really quick.
Yeah, he was so on it, but
and he was like, I'm so sorry about that,
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, well, I appreciate you at least realized the mistake and came and switched it before all of a sudden I'm hearing Barbie and trying to figure out why Oppenheimer sounds like Margot Robbie.
Right. I mean, that would have been interesting.
She'd have killed that role, y'all. I'm just saying.
But that was really cool. So I'm like, you have the perception that they're going to be really on it, right? And then when it fails miserably, not once but twice, and there's no recovery, that's the other part of it, right? So if I go to a restaurant and I have poor service or poor food or something happens, a manager normally is on damage control. And I've worked in restaurants. Joy's worked in restaurants, and that's what you do. You damage control, and damage control could be like, hey, let me give you a free dessert, or let me comp your meal, or let me bring you a different meal, or
give you a coupon for future use.
Even if it's a $20 coupon and you just paid $75, anything. I hear you. I'm so sorry this happened. Yeah. And I spent 15 minutes with the manager after, and all I heard was, I'm sorry that was a bad experience for you. I'll go double check that now. And I'm like, okay, I'm not looking for a free movie. I watched the movie, sort of. I sort of watched the movie. It was trippy, but it was an apology with no damage control, and that's the sad part. So I said to him, I'm like, here's what I recommend for you. I need you or somebody else to be blindfolded and go sit in the movie with the audio descriptor not working and tell me how your experience was. And when I suggest things like that to people, they get an affront. It's like, how dare you? Well, that's my experience. So why not attempt my experience and fix it? Like that alone, just taking that one experience, and it's not how I live my everyday. I know you're not going to get the vibe of what my everyday is like any more than it's somebody who has issues like you do, Joy, having it for a day or 2 hours or whatever, or people who try to sympathize and say, oh, well, yeah, I get crampy too. Like, no, you really don't. Well, let me set a 25-pound rock on you in your middle part, and you carry it around for 45 days and tell me how you feel. Right.
Well, and that's the other thing, because I've had it where in the past I've explained to people, I'm like, oh yeah, these are the kinds of things I need, whether it's for my asthma, whether it's for my tum-tum achies, or if it's like just I've got a lot going on.
Right.
But the one that other people tend to, for lack of a better term, I guess, relate to the most are when it's my stomach problems, whichever one may arise at the time.
Right.
And my favorite is I actually had somebody once who was like, yeah, I had really bad food poisoning that was like that. I understand. And I'm like, I want you to have food poisoning. Like, I want you to have food poisoning for the rest of your life, and then you'll understand, because all food tries to poison me. I'm being dramatic. Not all food, but a lot of it does.
Well, and then like I said, I get things like, oh, so you can see, and I'm like, yeah, and let me explain how I see, which is why, like, I know several episodes ago, you'll have to go back and look, I use those glasses that I show people. There's a reason I carry those around. I have an app that I can show people. There's a reason I do that. And I will uninvitedly show people because you
It's
can
true.
tell me that you think you know how I see, but you don't have a clue of how I see the world. And I try very hard to not let that affect how I see the world, right? Um, Having said that, if I'm asking you for an accessibility product that you're supposed to have, that's supposed to work, you should have it and it should work.
Yeah.
On our cruise where we had the issue, there was a machine in the room the whole time, and we didn't find out until we went to the movie that it was for hearing impaired.
Yeah. Yeah, we walked in and it was sitting on the bed
I'm
or
like,
something. And
yeah,
we
it
were
was
like,
there. And they were like, turn it in at the end of the cruise or leave it here. And then we went to use it. And I'm like, why is it just louder? It's just louder, right?
yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, it's for hearing. And I'm like, but I hear just fine. I just can't see it. So I need the descriptor. And they're like, oh, we don't have one on the ship. You have to order those. And I'm like, I did order that. And that's why I have the. I was like, what?
Well, another thing is like,
it's like you have one job, put the right thing in the right thing.
the other thing that I've noticed too with accessibility is, and I know we've talked about this before, but a lot of people, for some reason or another, think that if you are asking for a reasonable accommodation, no matter where it is, that they somehow, for some reason, automatically hold the right to know what your disability is.
Yeah.
And that's just not true.
No.
It's like, well, I need to know what it is. So, no, here's what I can tell you about it.
Yeah. Or I'm
Here's
telling you what I need.
care about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
This is what I need.
Right. Here's what I need. And that's all you need to know. So, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I had a recent experience with, we had an email switch with work and stuff. And so it was a system-wide switch, right? Y'all all know how updates go. You can't control them. I tried to get ahead of it, and I made a phone call to our corporate office and said, hey, here's what's going on. And can I get a glimpse of what this looks like? And so I can try and finagle it and see what I can do. And the guy who was part of he's like the bigwig IT guy. It took me long enough to get him on that stupid call. But then when he was on there, he's like, oh, yeah, here's the dark mode button. Boom, that should solve everything. And it's horrid. It's
I've seen
worse.
It. It's rough.
It's worse. Yeah. And the emails that pop up, the emails aren't in dark mode. It's just a big white box with black around it. Similar to how you see us on the screen right now. It's a black box, but it's bright white, like in our standard email. I'm like, that's one word in a code that should be in there that should just say invert. Like, I know that, and I'm not an IT person, but I've called to say this is not, and talked to them and said, this is not compliant. And they're like, we work with ADA compliance. They pass there. And I'm like, put a blindfold on. You tell me how that works. Wear these glasses. Tell me how that works. If it doesn't, it's not compliant. It is compliant, but it's not user-friendly, y'all. Right. So, well, I mean, it's dumb.
It's also things like, we've talked about it before, things that you can or can't do necessarily based on whether the accessibility is present or even just the nature of the disability itself. Mm-hmm. For example, it's probably not a great idea when I ride roller coasters. Like, I know that sounds stupid. It is probably not a great idea when I ride them, though, because, well, I'm jostling around my whole body and just hoping for the best at the end. I'm not gonna lie, part of whatever sort of crap that I get to deal with on my day-to-day, I get really bad headaches sometimes, and there are times where it's like it's not a head rush, but it can get triggered by if my body perceives something as sudden movement. I get a migraine, and it's the worst. I hate it. Not a fan. But like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go on roller coasters. But I also know it's not like they're going to make a roller coaster that's accessible in a situation like that, because it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
in terms of what a roller coaster is and what people go to experience with it.
Right. I mean,
But
they do have roller coasters that have like wheelchair accessibility, but that's
yeah,
a whole different thing
right.
than what you're talking about. Yeah.
And like when it was after our cruise, you and I went to another theme park, and there was like one or two sections of the theme park where everybody's really good about things,
Mm-hmm.
mom will get on a ride and it's I need my cane right as we're walking off the ride, and those two sections of this theme park,
Boom. They
was
were
right
there.
there holding
Yeah.
it and like,
Yeah.
here's
Yeah.
your cane, here's, I'm right in front of you, your cane is on the left hand side here to,
Yeah.
whatever. um
Amazing.
it was awesome, but it also was like getting around that theme park is, I would argue, not accessible for somebody who deals with some of the other problems I have, because there's no shade
Right.
and it's incredibly hot
Mm-hmm.
and there's really no water stops anywhere around.
No.
You have to walk like across the park just to get to a restaurant that will probably sell you an $8 bottle of water that's really like $3.50.
Yeah. I mean, they'll give out water, but not like at other theme parks. It's not
Right.
like as accessible. Yeah.
It's basically there from what I've experienced. If you pass out, they'll give you water once you're back at the infirmary, but there's not really a whole lot of like water carts and stuff around.
Right.
You have
And
to
the
meander and try
restaurant,
to find it.
yeah, the restaurants aren't really good about, hey, y'all need water. We're going to bring you water.
No, it's if you want water, you can purchase it, or you can get your soda,
Or
or
you
you
can
can do
ask for
both.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's stuff like that where it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's
Which
oh,
is a
but
shame because overall the sections that are good are really good.
yeah,
But when you're not in those sections, you're like, yeah, good luck.
why am I here?
Like that one ride, we went on one ride and it was a cartoon family ride, right? So it's a very well known cartoon family ride. And I'd never ridden it before and I wanted to ride it. Uh, and I don't think that was you. I was with somebody else. So
I was like, I'm trying to think of this.
no. So it's a cartoon family ride, the yellow cartoon family that's on a Fox network. Anyway, uh, so we go on the ride. I was with some other friends, not Troy. And the guy was like, yeah, it's over there. You get in over there. And I'm like, over where am I going? And because you were supposed to load in like 2 by 2 by 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 2 by 2 and then me. And I'm like, where am I going? I don't know where I'm going. And at some point, one of the cast members came in and they were like, you're not in your seat. I'm like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going. The guy was like, it's over here. And she goes, yeah, it's right there. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't know where you want me to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I can't find the seatbelt. Like,
And
what
shockingly
is
enough,
happening? Yeah.
vague hand motions.
Yeah.
Call back. Vague hand motions don't tell you much.
Over there.
Go that way. Just fish face forward. But
Yeah.
like it's things like that, it's, and I know
I
that,
love when people wave at me.
well, and I know it's a pretty common um it's a pretty common misconception, I
That's a
think,
theme park thing.
or this.
They'll do this and then they'll go.
I will literally be standing there next to her at theme parks and they'll do this and I will still just sit there.
Two, ma'am, two. And I'm like, yeah, two. I didn't know you were talking to me. And they're like, yeah, I had my hand up. And I'm like, did you?
But well, and I feel like it's a pretty common misconception though. And I am in no way bashing that like places that do this, because it's great that they're at least doing this much.
Right.
But I think it's a very common misconception of, oh, well, it's wheelchair accessible.
Yeah.
Which means it's accessible.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it means it's wheelchair accessible.
Right.
That's what that means.
Yeah.
People with a wheelchair can access this location, this ride, this whatever.
Right. And
the rest of us have to just deal with it.
Yeah. And I work in an industry, if you can't tell, I work in an industry that they're very big on inclusion and inclusivity. And I am so glad that it's being embraced, but it's not all inclusive. It is more inclusive now for wheelchair accessibility. It is definitely more inclusive now for the autistic community. Several cruise lines are autism certified, and several family resorts are autism certified, and that's great. And LGBTQ plus, there's room and spaces for that group as well, but it's not all inclusive, because I know even on our cruise there was a lot that was not blind accessible.
No, there was a lot that really it wasn't. And I will say, for a lot of the things that weren't accessible on that cruise, though, we did, and I know we've talked about them. It was like our first episode, but like we did have a very wonderful group of people who were doing
Yeah.
everything they could to help us
Yes.
within their capacity.
Yes.
They'd send word around
Above and
ships
beyond.
to
Above
like
and beyond.
let the other people know, if you see the blind lady coming,
Yeah.
help her out if she asks, you know.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
like,
And the character interactions were fantastic as
they're so
always.
good.
But yeah, but they were very good. Being able to help me feel things and touch things and
Disney is
making
known
sure
for,
I knew where they were. Yeah.
Disney is known for being one of the most accessible, I believe, theme parks
Mm-hmm.
that exist, because characters, they consign to deaf kids, and they
Mm-hmm.
are really good with visually impaired people and people in wheelchairs or various
Autism.
disabilities, and
Mm-hmm.
they're very cognizant of it. They,
Mm-hmm.
um, everybody's got to go through certain trainings to even work there.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you don't have to at other places; it's just different.
Oh, it's pretty intense there. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they still have their shortcomings, and we're
Yeah.
fully aware of that.
Yes.
I mean, we're going to be going on a Disney trip in the relative near future, and I know that when I get down there, I can, for at least one of the things that I struggle with every day. I say struggle with, anyways. One of the things that I deal with on a daily basis, I know I can walk in and say, "Hey, there are things I can't eat,"
Mm-hmm.
and somebody will come talk to me and verify, and
Mm-hmm.
try and do something to ensure that I'm getting the best experience possible,
Mm-hmm.
while still being able to have a normal experience like everybody else I'm with.
Yeah. They're
There,
going to do everything they can to ensure that you don't die on their watch.
but what's a bummer about that aspect is there are places out there that just don't do that.
Right.
It's there are amusement parks, theme parks, whatever out there where I ask a question, "Oh, do you have anything gluten free?" And they're just like, "No."
Right. Thank you, though.
Like, "Oh, okay, well, nice
Yeah.
chatting with you. Appreciate the
Yeah.
conversation."
Yeah. And you would think that, I know, once again, I know we mention Disney a lot because they do so many things right, and they're not a perfect place. No place is a perfect place. And it is a business,
Mm-hmm.
right? The mouse is a business,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
they do things to make the money, and they want you to come back to spend more money to make the more money. So, and I give the mouse most of my money. My husband will attest to that. Having said that, the other parks that we go to, while being more inexpensive, sometimes you pay for that in other ways,
Yeah.
to where they're not as accessible or not as trained or not as knowledgeable. And there are parks in parks, right, that we've been to, right? So there's the other place in Florida that's not the mouse, where the minions live, right? And they have parks in parks, right? And
Yeah.
I will state this wholeheartedly, not sponsored at all by Disney or the other one, but the Potter World is fantastic.
It
It
is.
is,
It is.
it is not fully handicap accessible,
No.
but it has the most shade. It has the most ramps.
Has
It
the most
has
welcoming people too.
cast members are trying very hard to ensure you are having the best experience. But if you are not within that realm, you are outside that realm, 0 F's are given sometimes.
And it could be something as simple as I believe we've told this story, but I'll tell it again. While we were at this other location,
Mm-hmm.
we were trying to get into Potter World, and you have to pass through a different world before you go in.
One of my favorite worlds.
It used to be.
Yeah.
And so um, the entrance is over by whatever, and we had looked up online really quick. Like, we went on their website to figure out when entry was, and Mom had a screen reader going because we were both tired and neither of us was like looking at the
Yes,
phone.
I had my screen reader on as much as I could. Yeah.
And so we go to get in, and one of the people that was working there was like, "Well, that doesn't open until this time unless you paid whatever." And I was like, "Oh, that's weird because your website said XYZ."
Yeah.
They're like, "No, it doesn't." And I was like, "Well, that's what it read off. You might want to you might want to have somebody double check that because accessibility wise, the screen reader read it
That's
to
what
us
it read.
whatever."
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're like, "We can wait. It's fine. Whatever." We walk away, and we're going to sit just to hang out and wait for the park to open.
Yeah.
I see this person go over to their manager, and it's like a teenager, maybe just out of high school, possibly college.
Yeah. She could have been on a college program. I don't know.
We don't
Anyway,
know. But she starts walking towards
younger.
us.
Yeah.
With a phone.
Yeah.
And going, "So if you look," and I had it. I turned around and I said, "If you show me your phone, I'm going to throw it.
Yeah.
You need to walk away." Her exact response was, "I'm just trying to be helpful."
No, if you were trying to be helpful, you would have just let us go because clearly the blind girl and her escort are a problem.
And that's the thing is we were sitting there because she said, "Well, I'm just trying to be helpful." And I said, "No, you're trying to be right. You and your manager both are just trying to be right. That's different."
Yeah.
I was like, "But we already said we'll wait until it's open at this point. I just had to find somewhere to sit her down in shade because she can't see things."
Not just that, but we ended up getting a FaceTime call from an adorable little grandchild of mine that we decided to
talk with them.
Talk with them for a while.
I mean, she was also going through some stuff, a little different, but
yeah, but she wanted to say hello. So.
And like I said, it was one of the, I'm fully aware I could have handled it better, but at the same time, I had it.
Yeah, but it's also one of those, like you talked about. It's like most of the discussion, argument, debate I have with accessibility on, well, with anything, but accessibility when I'm in a public arena is, do I want to be right? Or do I just do I want my way? Do I want to be proven right? Do I want to be right? Or do I just want the problem to just go away? Right. And that's for any argument. Are you just trying to be right? Or are you just trying to solve the problem? Right. And most of the time I just want to solve the problem, but there are times I just want to be right.
I will also like to point out the cast members did not like us after that.
And that's fine.
And when we went to cast, they all actively avoided us.
Yeah.
Which I was okay with, but I was just like.
Yeah. They literally walked the other way. This little gaggle of people walked the other way when we walked through when it was time.
And for the people that were going in, they weren't even checking their tickets anyway. So I'm like, why did you check ours?
Right. Why?
Like, you weren't even looking at anybody's phones or tickets or anything, but all of a sudden you stopped us?
Yeah.
I got questions.
It was so weird. It was weird. And then when we went to go to wherever we were going, and then when we came back through, they were all gathering there for something. And on our way out, we were like, "We hope you have the day you deserve."
Well, and
petty. I'm petty.
And again, it's for your, I don't want to say main disability, but for your disabilities, it's getting more and more visible, just because I know you carry your cane around more, especially if it's in an unfamiliar location. Mm-hmm. So people, while they may not choose to acknowledge it, can at least see, oh, that person's disabled.
Yeah.
Things are happening and that person's disabled.
Well, you would think so. I looked something up the other day just because it happens to me all the time, and we've mentioned it briefly previously that like people will see, they'll look me dead in the eyes and match my gait, and it's the weirdest game of chicken I've ever played in my life, and then they'll veer off at the last minute, or they'll hop over, like they'll try to walk past me and hop over my cane. Do you know what I found out? That is a Class C infraction.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's hysterical.
that you are doing that to a blind person that you can see coming with their cane because it's their assistive device, that's a Class C infraction.
Bro, you can literally call the cops on people.
That may not be a big deal to anybody else, but here's what that means. If I were to call in somewhere, especially at theme parks, I'm looking at you people at those theme parks, because there's hundreds of people who do that at theme parks. Hundreds of
and
people.
Some of them are, I will say, some of them get a pass because they're like 5.
The little kids, I'm not even talking about the little kids.
No, I know. I'm just throwing it out there for the people who may try
adults,
little kids get a pass.
Older teens, people who are like,
who should know better.
They do the hop and then they kind of keep staring as they're hopping or whatever, or they literally will look me in the eye and walk straight towards me, and I do not change I don't shift my gait. You can move around me. I'm going where I need to go. Anyway, so I thought that was humorous.
No, I genuinely think it's funny that you could call the cops on somebody over that. And I know for a fact, most people don't realize that's a legitimate crime.
It's a Class C infraction.
Literally a crime. That's amazing. But where I was going with it is like,
sorry, when I saw that, I was like, oh, I gotta tell her that. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, with yours though, people can see whether they choose to acknowledge it or not.
Mm-hmm.
They can see that you can't. And it's just,
yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, you can at least know that person is disabled in some way.
Yeah.
Some of us don't have that. It's not a luxury, but some of us don't have that option.
Right.
For people to know that I'm disabled, they need to either listen to this podcast or share with your friends, or like that's something that I disclose.
Yeah.
I said in the previous episode, every single job I apply for, I do disclose that I have a disability. Obviously, I don't have to disclose what it is.
Right.
And a lot of people eventually end up finding out anyways, because at some point it comes up. Oh, where were you yesterday? I had some doctor's visits. Oh my gosh, are you okay? Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, my insides hate me.
And that's it. Usually I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. It's just some medical stuff I've been dealing with for a while. You know?
Right.
And people let it go. Some people ask questions, and if I'm feeling up to it, I answer. Yeah. But like hidden disabilities as a general, and when all you have are hidden disabilities, you get grilled, and I'm not making a challenge, but you get grilled a lot about whether you're really disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, but don't you just get sick a lot? And I'm like, yes, but it's not that I'm just sick a lot.
Right. It's more than it's more than you have a weak metabolism or a weak immune system. There's a lot more going on. Side note on the Class C misdemeanor, I double checked it. So we all know, maybe we don't. I'm good. I'm gonna learn you real quick. Class C is the least. It's the smallest charge, but it's 0 to 60 days, and within the Class C, it's a fine of up to $500,
mm-hmm.
and it includes things like drug paraphernalia, reckless driving, and using a fake ID. So that's like in the realm of what that is. Just to let y'all, John Q. Public or John whoever is listening.
Yeah, it's not like they're getting like imprisoned for life.
No, but it's enough to be like, bro.
Yeah,
bro.
It's enough to cost you money and at least a quick court appearance.
Yeah. So enough for a slap on the face of why did you?
Was it really that important that you jump over this person's accessibility device?
Right. And that's included in the accessibility device. It's like guide dogs, messing with a guide dog, messing with somebody's wheelchair, stroller, rollator, not stroller, but walker, rollator, crutches, things like that.
For our wheelchair-bound friends out there, or those of you who do use wheelchairs intermittently, just remember you can actually press charges against somebody
100%
if they grab your wheelchair at all without your consent. You can literally call the cops and charge.
Yeah.
It's minor, and people may think it's petty, but it's not.
I found that fascinating. I was like, I knew it was against the law, but I didn't know, I
didn't realize that you could get fined $500 for that. That's kind of
I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. And that sounds, once again, super petty. But when you get to the point where you're done, you're done. And so it just happens too much sometimes that people don't think. One of the big things that I tell people is I want you to think about if I was your mom, your sister, your aunt, your grandma, somebody you cared about. I mean,
Significant
not
other.
the family members you don't like.
How much did I like Kevin, really?
Right. How much did I like Kevin? Kevin. But it's that kind of a thing that if I was somebody you cared about and somebody did what you just did.
How mad would you get?
Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous. So, and instantly people are like, oh, well.
If anybody did that to my mom, and I'm like, great, stop doing it to mine then.
Right. So
It's just a thought.
Anyway, so we can chat more about this. There's, like I said, we can go on about accessibility forever. Because there's lots and lots of things. But we're going to talk, I think next time we're going to talk more about hidden disabilities. Like what is a hidden disability kind of thing?
How do they show up?
Yeah. And I mean, what does that look like? And I think I put on there, how does it manifest? But like, really, like, what would people see or not see? That's why it's hidden, right?
Yes.
Another thing I want people to start thinking about is I'm going to start talking a lot about, I have a speaking engagement in September. And if you're local, yokel, I want to see you there, y'all. Because I'm not just for your podcast.
Ono?
Yeah, that's exactly the thing that I said.
So it sounded like, I'm sorry. Like, kind of like Yoko Ono. That's why I was like, what are you talking about?
That would be weird if Yoko Ono showed up.
She could show up.
I said local yokel.
Got it. We're on the same page. Frog protection.
So anyway, in the meantime, thanks for coming, y'all, and sharing your time with us. Go out there and like and share and subscribe, please. Smash that like button.
Let us know if there's any accessibility topics you'd like us to touch on. Just, drop it in the comments and we'll absolutely look more into it.
Yeah, and I get DMs all the time, y'all. But comment.
Reminder that everything we talk about too, that has to go for, obviously this episode, next episode as well. All the episodes, it's based on our lived experience or anything anybody has shared with us that they have experienced. Obviously, we don't speak for the entire disability community. That's a lot of people, and we don't.
I haven't met all of them yet. Yeah.
So, I mean, we do hope to see you back in the next episode. Keep it queer, and we'll see you back here next week for the Blithe and the Blind. Bye, guys.
Oh, almost made it. Dang it.